Yeah.
And good morning. So I got to ask you a question. Was yesterday the most Monday for a Tuesday? What is going on? It was a crazy all day long. I couldn't really, get a sense. And then today is Wednesday already. It's like,
I was exhausted. I was sitting in the rocking chair feeding Jules last night at like 8:15, and Gabby was sitting there like with me watching and hanging out. And I started to fall asleep while I was feeding him. And she was like, "Hey, you can't fall asleep while you're feeding him." Like, shit, I don't know.
Fall asleep anywhere, anytime. I love it.
Yeah, I was
super excited today. First of all, yesterday was just a great day. It was great getting back in the groove. A lot of really, really good feedback from the Kobe, make that contract. I mean, that was part of almost every single dialogue I had yesterday.
Yep.
Went to our friends at Profi in person, which was great. Had their whole team, which I am now contracted to do that once a month. So there's great stuff happening. But over the weekend, I stopped for gas, and I don't usually look at the numbers. I just kind of need gas, so I put it in. And I'm usually a pretty alert guy. Shay, show me what gas looks like. So when we were in Napa, it was 49, 59. Wouldn't you? And I said, "Oh, living in California is berserk. This is insane." And then look at me on the left. 6.79 a gallon. I don't care how much money you make. When you got to put it all in your tank, it's absolutely crazy.
When it cost $100 to fill the tank I think it was a week and a half ago, I was like, that feels different, like $50. It was, even it gets up to $70, but like when I saw there was $100 on the register, I was like, wow. All right, we're living in different times.
I don't care what business you're in. This is going to pinch. This is going to take dollars out of things that you would do, but there is a solution. And I could not be more excited to have our friends, Sean and David, who we can now call partners. Let me give you just a little bit of the backdrop. Mark goes to coach at Florida State. One of our first trips up there, we jump in this thing called Gotcha. It's a free ride that was taking us around the campus. We love the guy that's driving it. He owns it. Talk about entrepreneur. We've been friends ever since. He is responsible for getting Jake into the hottest bar in Tallahassee when he was 9. And Jake lit the place up. So we've had a very long, very successful career as entrepreneurs doing shit together. These guys, him and his partner, David, are amazingly smart in the mobility space. Shay, show me some of the pictures. Look at that. Look at the history of him working with me working with him. I brought him into every deal. He's brought me into his deals. Now we're finally circling back. Mark, being the president of the company, gave it the green light, which I'm happy. We're going to move forward with a partnership with EFO Ventures, which they will share what that is. Let's get some wake up music, and then we'll bring on Sean Flood and David Touwsma. Boom! Wake up, everybody! Get up! Get up! Get up! Get up! Wake up! Come on! Come on! Wake up, everybody! Teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen what you have to say. Wake up, everybody! No more sleeping in bed. No more back to thinking. Time for thinking ahead. Come on now. So as I said before, we're going global. Welcome Sean and David. Sean is coming to us live from the mobility show in Amsterdam. You can just imagine what his night was like. And David from Lisbon. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the Daily Huddle. Tell us who you are.
Man, so excited to be here. I do want to comment that those pictures, I had no gray hair. Like, it's an evolution.
That's true.
Like, it made me, I didn't even listen to what you were saying. So all of a sudden it's like, well, when did I go gray? That's how long we've known each other. So excited to be here. Dave and I, we'll tag team this a bit. We're at the Micromobility Conference. We are mobility veterans, right? I've been in this industry for 15 plus years. And excited today to talk about what is mobility for you guys. But we're doing this live from the largest micromobility conference in the world in Amsterdam, and super excited.
You said before while we were getting set up that it's the Super Bowl of the business. So I can't wait to hear more. David, tell us who you are, how you joined the party. Can't wait to dig in.
Absolutely, yeah. So I've been an entrepreneur just like you guys for my whole career. Sean and I have been friends for over 20 years, so I've known him quite as long as you have. And I exited a company, and when Sean was looking to continue to scale Gotcha, I jumped in and helped grow the business, and we've been thick as thieves ever since. So.
Love it. So Sean, give us the short version of the history. I mentioned, when we were, way back when you became free rides at every school, where you are now. So short history of what mobility meant and then what it means now.
Yeah. So when I got into the game 15 years ago, mobility wasn't a word. And you fast forward today, right? Gas, it makes it super relevant. But today, mobility is how we interact with the world. So our genuine focus is everything other than a gas-powered vehicle. But if you look at how we interact, whether it's on a bike, on a scooter, downloading an app to integrate, how we move is the mobility sector. I think what Dave and I are kind of the most excited about is most people view mobility today as like, oh, I saw scooters in South Beach. And the industry is so much bigger than that. And when you really peel it back, you see all the touch points that we have in our life. If you didn't have the mobility industry, we'd all be, like we did the past 2 years, sitting in our apartments by ourselves. Now that we're out in the world, the industry of mobility is massive, and we touch it multiple times a day.
So I got a question for you, Sean, because I think I know the answer to this, but I don't know it for sure. What was the pain point that you saw that said, I got to create Gotcha? What was the thing that gave you the idea that said, mobility's not working on college campuses?
Yeah. So back then, I'd love to say I thought this industry was going to exist today, but I was wicked early. I mean, the reason I was driving a Gotcha ride around the stadium is I needed a job, right? Like, we weren't yet there. Like people didn't want to own an e-bike or ride a scooter or or to your point yesterday, Mark, buy a Tesla. Like I was way too early. But what I saw happening and what Dave and I look at today is people want another option. They don't want to be reliant on single car ownership. They definitely don't want to be reliant on gas. So anything electric, anything other than owning an old school car that you're going to pay off over the next 7 years, and it's going to sit in your garage for 23 hours a day just so you can sit in traffic. That sector, that pain is what allowed us to create EFOV, and I think kind of driven the success over the past few years as we launched the company.
So I worked with you all through, got to work with Gotcha all over the country, which was fun. West Coast trips will never be the same. Heading, to LA, we were talking the other day when we were having dinner with John Sally and all that kind of stuff. So you took that company, you exited, and then your strategy was what? How did EFO come to fruition? And then if you can bridge what you did to what you're doing now and how the Nudelberg gang is jumping on board.
Yeah. So Dave, like you mentioned, we've been friends for over 20 years, similar to you guys. And he was the COO. I was the CEO of Gotcha. We grew the business as big as we could get it, sold it. It went public. And like a lot of founders, months later, we're like, all right, it's not our baby anymore. It's time to get off the ride. And at that moment, we knew we wanted to work together, and we knew we wanted to do something in the mobility space. So our first fund, EFOV Seed, was just that. Our money, we went out and found entrepreneurs, and we either invested or we incubated them. We brought them into our studio and we wrapped everybody's arms around it. Steve, you were instrumental in that. That was a year and a half ago. We put our own money at work, created a pretty large enterprise value for 8 portfolio companies and investments. And now is it's happening in real time, the industry. We're like, it's time to take it to the next level. We've proven the thesis. So super excited that our fund 2 is not only Dave and Sean, but Steve and Mark. And I think wildly excited to have 2 other partners in the boat to launch our EFOV slice, our fund 2.
So I don't think the audience knows that right at the start of the pandemic, you had been living in Charleston, South Carolina, which was a wonderful place to visit. I was fortunate to come there often. Once again, I don't think St. Patty's Day will ever be the same after coming there.
Yeah.
But you called me one day and said, I am moving to Ireland. And I was like, what? So
Yeah.
talk to me about
Steve, he
how
wanted to give me a good reason to come to Europe 6 to 12 times a year.
So
Right.
I love to Andy Smith, who's here. I love the story. Andy Smith is a fellow Atlanta guy, so I got to make sure you guys get connected. But the idea that you would pick up your whole family and go to Ireland. How does somebody come to that decision? Because we talk to people about fear of change, and that's really ripping the Band-Aid off.
Well, it's your ecosystem, right? So I'm pretty fortunate personally and professionally where they collide. So I've got Dave as a partner who was okay with that. Not everybody is. And it opened up Europe as our other investment market. And then I've got a wife who's as crazy, or she's not listening this morning, but crazier than I am. And she loved this idea. Like, the pandemic shook us to our core. We were locked down, and this change was what we needed, both personally as a family, and it's turned out professionally to be even better. But yeah, my ecosystem is as crazier than I am, and it made that happen.
So go, Mark.
So for those who don't know, like, Gotcha was basically an electric cart that was driving you around campuses, and it became, to me, it was like Uber before Uber. Like, you would just see it rolling down the street and you could grab it, and it was a really cool way to be able to not have to wait online for a taxi, not have to drive your own car.
It was
now
free.
You guys have created,
it was free,
and it was free. Yeah, you can just hop right in. I mean, you always wanted to tip the driver a couple bucks because, like, he was in your biology class with you, and you were like, dude, you're doing this with a boombox for free? Like, come on, man. Like, but I think that's where it started, and you kind of touched on, like, well, now we see e-bikes. Now we see scooters, like, that are in hubs around cities. What's part of the EFOV Slice Fund, or what are some of the businesses that you guys are in now that are that continuation of this mobility space that isn't Tesla? It's not electric cars. It's everything else.
Well, I think everybody on the huddle and their businesses can appreciate the fact that you need product market fit and timing in order for something to work, right? I started a company 14 years too early and had to survive long enough to see today. What Dave and I saw is people now want it. They want something other than a gas-powered car. So as soon as you have that market pull, the companies that pop up to service that need are exponential. So that's what we do, right? We use all of our experience and we look at companies serving this industry. So that could be a direct-to-consumer e-bike. It could be a shared scooter, all the things we see. It could be advanced battery technology. But the ecosystem is bigger than we all think. And there's typically a technology component behind any industry that is adoption. And that's where we're investing and where we see the opportunity.
So in all of our dialogue prior to obviously deciding to work together and moving forward, I had a question that I wanted to ask you. So we obviously live in South Florida. I have seen an influx of people buying like these souped up golf carts. Like just a regular golf cart is sitting next to me, like on a major street. So where does that fit in the ecosystem of what you've seen? And because that's from what I can understand, it's legal to drive on city streets.
Yeah, I think it's, and Dave might have a similar opinion, but I think it's this hunger for something not a car. So people are like, oh wow, I can drive an electric golf cart and it's half the price and it doesn't cost me anything to really juice it, and now I can drive around South Florida. So it's that like thirst for it. And the other thing is people are realizing that they don't go far, right? Most of our day is under 100 miles, and typically it's sub 10 miles. So that's driving people who now want a different vehicle. I mean, I don't think it's too long before Mark has an electric vehicle in his garage. And
I'm all about Tesla at the moment. Like just the idea of what I went through to get the gas in my wife's car the other day. I was like, I know my lease is coming up, and I immediately said, how long is the wait time? Let me go look and see what the options are. And the reality is that there are good looking cars that aren't $110,000, that aren't, they're in a price range that you're like, all right, that's doable. That makes sense. And I think I want to be a part of that change now. It's becoming not so out there, not so, oh, that's so different, or how are you going to do that? It's becoming more commonplace.
Yeah. And Tesla did a great job of building the industry. Now there's so many companies around it building quality. I mean, the options are so plentiful and only going to get better, which is why we're excited about it, because now we can invest in that.
Speaking of the Super Bowl, some of the Super Bowl commercials were major car companies that were pushing their electric brand, right? Like BMW was promoting their electric vehicle. And so you're seeing all of these other gas-powered, brands now have to start to shift to say, well, we have an option for that consumer as well, because that consumer is becoming such a large part of the market.
So Mark put it in the chat. If you have questions for Sean or David, please, put them in here. We'll make sure that they get answered. My next question is, you're in Amsterdam. There's this monster event, that's going on there. And you said Amsterdam is a bike city. So unpack that for me. Like, what makes a city a bike city versus, is that New York, San Francisco? Because I just got back from San Francisco. I saw scooters on every corner. I'm 62 years old. There's no way I'm getting on a scooter. So.
Yeah, I would pay.
It sounded good. It sounded good.
I would pay to see you on a scooter.
We're gonna make that happen. Well, it's this convergence of things. So Europe as a whole has always been more friendly to things not a car. America is now coming around to that. So you've got this pull from consumers, which is plentiful here. There's more bikes in Amsterdam than cars. It's fantastic. And then you have an industry that built up around it to support it. So we're seeing the same thing in the US. Now, it's never going to be infrastructure, right? It's never going to be the city saying, hey, we built tons of bike lanes. It's going to be the opposite. It's going to be consumers saying, we now have not a car, and you need to build the infrastructure to support it. And we're seeing that happen. So it won't be long before every city in the US has that vibe that's not built for a car, which is what our world was created for in the US.
So Scott Oglesby from Sistel in Raleigh, go Rangers. Sorry, couldn't help it. Who's going to build the power grid to handle all the charging stations needed? Taxpayers or independent financiers? That's a good question.
It's a great question. So I think government is going to fund it, but that's going to take a long time. There are some amazing entrepreneurs right now building the infrastructure, both the back end to support it and then the devices that are going to power it. We're looking at investing in a few through this next fund that are in the kind of front end consumer charging space, because there's a ton of business models around how we are going to consume electricity for our not gas powered cars. So a little bit of government because you're going to need the infrastructure. But like anything, it's going to be driven by entrepreneurs.
So
Yeah, and there's several of them here.
That's
Yeah,
right.
there's several of them here. I mean, this I'll turn around and show you the size of the space, but there's these kinds of players are here that are innovating the industry.
I love it. So we call Wednesday Wisdom Wednesday. For those who may not be familiar with what a fund is or how it operates or why even have one, can you unpack what TFO Ventures did with Seed, what Slice is, and why someone they know might want to be interested in hearing more?
Yeah. So we built EFOV like we build other companies, right? In the beginning, we took our own money and we said, look, we only have so much of it and we want to be impactful. So we wrote checks to empower entrepreneurs, typically early stage, first checks in. And then we added our wisdom and help to stand them up. And then the other side was to incubate. So find founders who had ideas and wrap our arms around them and help them build a company. With Seed, we did that for 8 companies, 100% our own money. Now that we've proven the model and we're comfortable taking on other partners, EFOV Slice is just that. So we're going to open that up to other investor partners to join us. And we're going to duplicate the exact same thesis. Early checks in, mobility focused, and we're going to wrap the EFOV team around them to give them a better chance at success.
Love that. I mean, so that is truly the entrepreneurial, bonanza, because the rate of companies that start and go away because they don't have the resources is astronomical. That's fundamentally what you guys do. You bring finances, you bring experience, you bring connections. So, super fun, because for me, while I'm not an expert in the mobility space, and neither is Mark, we are, experts in the relationship side. And everybody that I've had talk to you has either wanted to move forward or knew somebody who did. And good morning, Scott McGregor, speaking of relationships. Sean, do you know Scott?
No.
Oh, so Scott has a whole TCC thing. That is the relationship king. He puts the crown on every day and people kiss the ring because he is the master of who he knows and whatever. He's actually really good friends with Jesse, which is right up Jesse's alley.
Great connection.
Yeah.
Scott, we've got to talk. Well, I'll tell you, Steve, that's an interesting point. Is like, that's what's important. Like, we're about to go into some economic turmoil. We want partners as we find these companies. They're going to need help. It doesn't matter how big they are, and they need entrepreneurs who have been there before. And it's why having, you, Mark, and the kind of on the ball team is crucial to that. It's not money.
I'm glad you said that, because, over the course of time, the only thing that really sticks is relationships. Look how many starts and stops you and I have had, and they come to their logical end and people move on. And then if you've done the right thing, they come back. Your network doesn't leave, it goes quiet. And, I think what the pandemic did was shake people who didn't have a network. It was like, oh shit, what do I do now? So no matter what, and this is kind of the point I want to bring, no matter what business you're in, no matter what you do, it's all about the people you know, because they become your real support.
It's crucial. I mean, Dave and I, like I said, we've been buddies for a long time, but that ecosystem is crucial. And it's personal and professional. Those lines blur on a daily basis, I think, for all of us, and that's exciting.
So you're in Ireland. David, you're in Atlanta, correct?
I am, yes.
But you're both in Amsterdam today.
We are.
Okay, I thought you were in Lisbon for some reason.
Well, I'm going there next.
Tomorrow.
One of our slice portfolio, one of our seed portfolio companies is in Lisbon, so I'm hopping over there next.
Great. Are you going to get a chance to connect with Jeff?
I mean, we'd like to.
So.
Yeah.
I'll ping him today to make sure. So, Mark, any other final thoughts? I know we're going to try and have you guys come and visit the Innovation Center, where we'll actually have product demos and do almost like a fair that says, here's what you could do, here's what you could get involved in. That's the fun stuff. The touchy-feely, like where you are now. I remember going to Dublin to a big web event that blew my mind. That's where I first saw 3D printing, and it was like, what? They just built something in front of me. I was like,
yeah, I would say if people are interested to learn more, I think Mixed and Frog are two of the companies that are kind of up and visible that people can go do some research on to understand what that original fund was about and what came out of that fund. And I always, as always, reach out to have a conversation with any of us if you guys are interested in learning more about the mobility space and what we're doing.
So Ed Dyke said that he is going to call Elon. Oh, I read that wrong. I thought you were calling Elon.
Right.
We'll send.
Did we lose him?
Oh, we might have lost Sean right at the end of the show.
It was right at the end of the show. Well, he's pondering thought. Is he back? Good. He's
back.
Oh, I'm back. No. I lost you for a second. I said I'll send you the routing number to let Elon know where to send the money.
Direct, right in. Boom.
Yeah. Come right in.
Mark, any final thoughts for our friends here? Hopefully this was an education for everybody. I'm still learning, but what I know is if you provide value, good things happen. That's the entrepreneurial spirit. Close us out, Mark.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy the rest of the Super Bowl of the mobility space. We're excited about this start. We're excited about where it will go. Thank you guys for being such great partners. And to the moon we go. Have a great day, guys.
Sir. Thank you.
Please don't worry about me. I'm about to let my heart speak. My friends keep telling me to leave this. So let's get down to business. Let's get down to business.